Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Growing Wealthy Grooming. This is River Lee, your host, founder of Savvy Groomer. I hope everyone is having an amazing Monday. Here in Rhode Island, we had an insanely hot weekend where it was literally 100 degrees, which is Fahrenheit. In case if you Celsius, people were like, that's okay. So let's begin with the topic. The topic today is going to be the appointment book for your finances. You're like, what are you talking about? I don't have an appointment book for my finances. I can barely hold together an appointment book for my grooming salon. The truth is, guys, and you know this, that you can't run whether you own a grooming salon, you're a pet sitter and you have a schedule, you're a dog trainer, or even if you're a veterinarian, you can't run your day willy-nilly, letting people come and go as they please. It doesn't work, right? And for those of you guys that are doing that, I would love you to comment below and say, oh no, I just let people show up whenever they want, pick up whenever they want. They can have whatever services they want. Even when I owned my grooming salon, I stopped allowing walk-in nail clips because people would show up whenever they wanted and I would have a dog on the table and they would show up and then I have to put the dog down or back in a crate, go over, check them in. Did they have their rabies? Did they not have their rabies? And it just created a whole mess. So I said, okay, you're going to come between this time of the day, or you can make a same day appointment where you can call up and I can schedule in your nail clip. So what does that have to do with my finances? Well, let's have a conversation about that, right? You're going to get sick of me saying it. I know. But the truth is your budget is the appointment book for your finances, right? Because what a budget does. Now, when I say a budget, I really suggest you do a zero-based budget. And I can explain what a zero-based budget is in a moment. But when you're doing a budget, what you are doing is you are deciding the slots of money and putting a dollar amount. Same as you would have, some of you guys are going to be doing, some of you guys have multiple groomers. You might do more than one pet in a slot. But for the most part, we put one pet in a slot, to come by. We may be grooming multiple pets at once. But you wouldn't just allow 10 people to show up right in the morning, right? That wouldn't work. So what do? So with your money, you want to say, let's say groceries, really easy. Let's say I'm going to agree that I'm going to spend $400 a month on groceries. It's pretty safe to say. So you can do that one of two ways. You can either give yourself $100 a week. Now, some weeks, some months are a little longer. That may or may not be advisable. But at least then you have a set amount of money to do it. The same way that you can only do a set number of dogs a day. For those of you guys that go over that set number of dogs or cats that you're grooming, pet sitting for, dog training, you get really stressed out, right? It's not long and sustainable. So the same thing with our budget. So now let's explain the zero-based budget. A zero-based budget pretty much means you're going to take every dollar you make and it's going to have a plan. And this is so backwards because we're told like you want money left over at the end of your budget, right? You don't, because what happens with that leftover money? It just goes poof, right? What happens is the money at the end of your budget just goes to whatever it is that you want. If you have an extra $500 a month, you might be like, oh, sweet, now I can go buy those shears. Or, oh, sweet, now I can go out to eat 5 more times this month. Instead of saying, okay, that extra $500 is going to go into retirement or paying off debt or whatever it is in this moment that you're working on. So with your appointment book for your finances, I want you to look at how much money do you make on average. Some of you guys have a volatile income. You might be commission-based. Even if you're hourly, the hourly might not be steady. How are you paid? And if you're not really sure how much you get paid on average, go ahead and take the last 6 months and figure out your average monthly income. So add up all your paychecks in each month and then divide it by however months you did. So if you did 6 months, You would take your paychecks per month, add them together, and do that for all 6 months, and then add up all those 6 months and then divide them by 6. And you could get an average. It's also good to know what your highest was and what your lowest were. In New England, 9 times out of 10, November and December are the busiest times of the year because we have Thanksgiving and Christmas. However, in January and February, it's very, very cold here. And because it's cold and it's snowing, a lot of people will push out their appointments. So people that come in December, let's say right around Christmas time, December 25th, obviously, they may choose to go all the way to the end of February or even early March. And depending on the weather, because they might not drive in the snow, or they may have the unrealistic expectation that their pet doesn't need to be groomed because it's cold out and they need all that hair. So with that, I know in December and in November that I need to be able to take that money and put it into a sinking fund. Sorry, there's a motorcycle out there. I'm sorry, not a sinking fund, into what's called a Hills and Valleys fund or a savings account, or however I want to do mine for January and February if I have a traditional salon in New England. Now in Arizona or somewhere warm, they have a lot of people that come in the wintertime because obviously it's much warmer in the wintertime. And in the summertime, it's blistering hot. So a lot of people probably get their pets shaved right before the summer, or they go somewhere else for the summer. So they might have less people. So knowing your actual local area is going to be so important. So by going ahead and figuring out how much money you average, you're able to then take your paycheck and give it everything a dollar amount. How much money do you want to spend going out to eat per month? Is that $100? Is that $500? And that's all about lifestyle. You might be a $1,200 a month person, and that's fine. You just have to make sure that it makes sense with your budget. So if you're only making $2,000 a month, you can't spend $1,200 a month eating out. Unless I don't know, even if you're living, even if, I was going to say, even if you live with your parents, that's still a lot of money. That is, more than 50% on food. That's crazy. Again, that said, go ahead and say, okay, this is how much on groceries, on eating out. How much money do I have towards debt? Do you have a car note? Do you have student loans? I don't want you to look at business loans. Don't look at business loans, and don't look at your mortgage right now. I just mean personal notes. Like I said, car notes, student loans, credit cards, things like that. How much do you have, and how much of that is a monthly payment? So go ahead and tally all that up, because you might, let's say, for instance, you have like a $450 car note, and then you have $550 a month credit card bill. Well, it's $1,000 a month just in debt. So when you have that money, you want to say, okay, how long would it take for me to pay that off? And if it has, if it's going to take you 6 months to pay off that credit card, maybe you want to cut back eating out and pay off the credit card sooner and cut the credit card up, because the last thing you want to do is pay for something that you may or may not have anymore. What credit card does is that you're promising money that you don't currently have. So when you take on debt, you are promising money that you don't already have. And that sucks because you're already losing hours you haven't even worked. What if your life changes? What if you lose your job? Anything like that. And you're honestly generally less wise with it. Generally speaking, you're a lot less wise with that money. What happens is that you will choose to not spend that money wisely. I'm trying to think of a good example really quick. Sorry, guys. I think a great example of that would be, like a car note. Because let's say you buy a car for $20,000. It's $450 a month for the next 5 years. And by the time you pay off that car is worth nothing. So then you get another car note. You just get another car note, and you get another car note. And you never actually catch up. And so even when you trade in that car, you're generally underwater because that car is generally depreciated faster than what you've paid it off. And so what happens is you're constantly paying this car note and you're never getting ahead. Now you're like, well, who cares, right? But I mean, if I take my calculator really quick, and let's say it's a $20,000 car, and I'm going to divide that by 5 years. That's $4,000 a year. Did I do that right? Hopefully. 20,000 divided by, yeah. So, you're paying currently for, let's do that, 450 times 12. So you're paying $5,400 when you could be paying $4,000. So you're paying an extra $1,400. And you're like, what's the big deal with the $1,400 extra a year? That extra $1,400 a year is a big deal because that's not the only thing you're doing that with. And that car is not worth anything at the end of it. That's the problem. Cars, no matter what you do, they're just going to sink like a ship. They're awful. That said, if you do want a nice car, let's say if you're the kind of person that, please don't keep buying brand new cars. That's really bad. But if you're going to lease, again, leasing has its ups and downs. It's debt. It's really not ideal. But if you're going to lease, make sure that when you're leasing, you're doing it in a way that ideally you could pay cash for the beginning of the lease. So let's say you have a 3-year lease, you're going to pay 50% down, which you actually don't want to put on the lease. This is actually a more complicated situation than I want to talk about with leasing because there's a lot involved. But in a perfect world, you wouldn't buy new, you wouldn't buy a lease, you wouldn't buy with a car note. You would do the perfect way, which is paying cash. But we'll talk about that. That would be a good video. If you guys want to hear more about leasing a car, I can talk about that more. But going back to our appointment book for finances, I want to make sure that you guys understand that everything that you spend money on should be a category. And if you want to lump some things into a bigger category, so in my budget, I have a household category. And what the household category is it is a category in which I put anything that I do for the house. So any cleaning supplies, any updates, furniture, things like that. And so I have a set amount of money that I put into that. And so anything that I don't spend, I have a sinking fund. And a sinking fund is just a pre-planned savings account. So I will save up for furniture upgrades instead of just one day being like, oh, I really want a new dining table. And a new dining table could be $300 or $2,000. And again, that all depends on my budget. But, my other alternative with that would to get a credit card or get a loan from a furniture company. And obviously the problem with that is that you'll generally spend more. So instead of being wise with my money, buying a dining room set, let's say, because I'm going to get 0% interest for 5 years, a lot of times if we really had the cash, you'd be like, you know what? Do I really want this dining table? Or for $500 less, I can get just as good of one here. Or you know what? We're only 2 people. Let's get the smaller one for now. And then in 2 to 3 years, when we have kids, we'll sell this one and buy a bigger one instead of just buying the bigger one, which, always costs more. The seats cost more. Chairs can be $100 a pop. And that's on the low end. So with your appointment book for your finances, you really want to say, how much money am I going to spend on X, Y, and Z? So with us, and I know a lot of times, if you are an employee and not a business owner, if you're an employee, you need to reinvest with your personal funds into your grooming. So you should have a little category of how much you're going to spend on upgrading your equipment. How much are you going to spend on your education? How much are you going to spend going to trade shows and seminars and continuing education? Because when you're an employee, those are your expenses. Now, you might have a great employer who's willing to pay for some of those things. However, if you're a business owner, those should be lines in your business budget because the business should pay for those things. But if you're a business owner, you still have a much more volatile, let's be honest, you have a much more volatile income. So there's a lot more things going on there anyway. So with this appointment book for your finances, you're going to make a plan, you're going to make a structure, and you're going to stick to it. I'm going to put down in the show notes, there's a great app called Every Dollar. It actually allows you to create a zero-based budget. It's free. If you want the upgraded version, what it'll actually do is link to your bank account and go ahead and you can just swipe your expenses right into the categories. I like the feeling of putting them in. I find that I am a lot more aware of how much I'm spending when I actually have to input. So when I go to the gas station and I input how much I spent in gas, it allows me to keep an eye on that. Because obviously if I go over on gas, did I make a lot of extra trips I didn't need to? What was I doing that was different that month? And I might have to plan ahead better where, let's say if I'm taking a road trip and I'm driving a long distance, I should plan in the beginning of the month to spend that extra money, whether putting a category for a road trip or making the gas a little bit bigger. And the same thing with going out to eat. If I'm going on a road trip, I'm probably going to be eating out more. So that category will probably have to be bigger. So with that said, I want to challenge you guys to go ahead to either everydollar.com or consider going on the Savvy Groomer page and learning how to make a zero-based budget. We definitely go through all of how to create a budget in a meaningful way in on my online course called Personal Finance on a Leash. I would love to see you guys there. We will be launching again, depending upon when you're watching this playback. We launch at least twice a year, and we go through that together. It is a 12-week course teaching people how to groom, do a business budget. To do a budget if you're a groomer, but also pet professionals work on that as well. Sorry, I got all tripped up. I saw the numbers rise, and well, you know what, guys? I promise I will get better at these lives. They're a little difficult for me. I get a little nervous when I'm live. It's easier to do a recording and then chop it all up because then you can cut all that out. It just gets a little nerve-wracking being live, but I promise to get a little bit better. So I want to thank you so much for being here with me. Thank you so much. I will definitely read all the comments below. Feel free to go to my website, which is Savvy Groomer, Savvy groomer.com. You can also post below with the comments. Please subscribe. We would love to be able to get over 1,000 people. If we get over 1,000 people, then we'll be able to have a greater reach. And that would be amazing. All right, guys. So I would love to see you guys at my online course, which is Personal Finance on a Leash, my website, savvygroomer.com. You guys have a fantastic evening, and I will see you next Monday. Happy grooming, guys.